Alright, so here comes a 30 left traffic pattern at St. Louis Downtown Airport. Left traffic, 30 left. Let's kind of tuck our way through it. So I've got here a Cessna 172S model with a 6-pack on the inside. Here we are holding short of 30 left at, I believe it's Bravo 7. Doesn't have the signs in the simulator, but it should be Bravo 7. Cool, so let's get into the plane and talk about it. So, here we are, 30 left, so 302 is going to be the runway heading here, so we can load up 302, the heading bug there, so that'll just show us our runway heading there, so we know we're aligned when we get on there, so that's good. And so we're holding short here. We will have already done our run-up, so the flaps are down in the sim for whatever reason, so let me put those up. So put the flaps up there. And so before we take off, so the nav and strobe lights would be off at this point. The taxi lights would be on because we will have just taxied to the runway. So before we go about calling tower or anything like that, what we would do is make sure we're all good to go. So everything's set. We've done our run-up. That was all good. We're all loaded up with our heading bug and all that. Everything checks out. All the instruments are good. So cool. So what I like to do is the lights, camera, action check. So lights over on the left. Make sure the strobe light's on. Nav light's not required. We can leave the taxi landing lights on. That's good. So that's lights, and then the camera and action part is more of just like the mixture. So make sure the mixture's rich in case we would have leaned that, which we should do as leaning it. But we'll make sure it's rich before we take off, like always. And so we're good there. So now we would give tower call, and we'd say downtown tower, Cessna Papa, Oscar, Oscar Papa, holding short of 30 left at Bravo 7, ready for takeoff. And then tower would come back and say Cessna Papa, Oscar, Oscar Papa, 30 left at Bravo 7, cleared for takeoff. And then we'd say 30 left at Bravo 7, cleared for takeoff, Oscar, Oscar Papa, and they'd probably tell us left traffic as well. We'd make that. So great, so here we go, we're ready to go. Lights, camera, action, all our lights are on, taxi light, strobe light, beacon light, nav light, all that's good. Mixture is full, good there, so we are good to taxi onto the runway. I'll get the yoke back so you can see that. So give it some power, move onto the runway. There we go. I usually don't like to wait very much. Once they clear us for takeoff, I like to just get rolling right away. Cool, so we've got a yellow line that will bring us onto the runway, and so I like to try to file those if I can. If we had to simulate using maximum runway, we could do that, but I like to just use the yellow line because it's there for a reason. Great, and so we get ourselves pulled up on the center line. We can brake, oops, a little to the left, there we go. We come to a full and complete stop here. And as we do this, we will now increase our power up to 2,000 RPM. We see our headings all good there. So up to 2,000 RPM on the power. Look at all of our engine gauges at the left. Fuel flow is good. Pressure, temperature of the oil is good. Vacuum gauge is great as well. So good. So we can release our brakes, increase the power to full. And now we are rolling. So it wants to come to the left. So we'll add some right rudder pressure there to keep us over the center line. See, yeah, it's really wanting to move on me. Airspeed is moving up. So now the airspeed's alive, and we'll rotate at 55 knots. So there's 55, so we'll rotate, we'll pull back, and since it's an S model, our best climb VY is 74, so we'll accelerate up to 74, and what we notice is we cannot see the runway anymore because we're pitching up, and so we can accelerate a little bit more up to 74 there, and we pitch back to maintain, there we go, so there's about 74, and so we're looking down here about to see where we're going. So I see the heading got a little to the right, but it's tough to tell. So I'm just kind of keeping the control tower. That's a good reference on this runway. Is keeping the control tower at about the same distance from us. And it's much easier in the actual plane to see things like that down there. But cool. So there's 1,100 feet. So we'll make our left turn. Crosswind, still climbing up at 74. I'm doing my best to keep it, but it's tough in the sim. Cool, so there's 1,300 feet, 100 feet to go till traffic pattern altitude, so we can start to let the nose come forward. There it goes. Man, that was some climb performance. Good, so there's heading of 210. There's 90 knots, so we'll throttle back down to about 2,200 RPM. That's usually good to maintain it for us at 90 knots, maintain altitude. Sweet, so there's the runway. There's the gas station right there. I like to fly this downwind to aim to fly just south of that gas station. So there's the gas station, so I'm going to make the downwind turn now. And so our airspeed is fine, and our altitude's a little bit high, so we can just let it come down just a little bit. Just a nice shallow turn, about 90 knots. There we go. So keep this turn coming, and the heading here should be about 122. There we go. So there's the gas station. We'll kind of aim for that intersection, just a little south of it there. That's great. So there's 1,400 feet, about 90 knots. Feeling good. I'm going to trim back. Trim for straight and level here. Yeah, that nose really wants to come down, so I'll trim back. There we go. Great. So there's midfield. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the power down to about 1,500 RPM. Okay. And I'm going to pitch back slightly just to maintain our altitude. Don't lose it too much. Airspeed gets down to around 80 knots or so. The nose wants to start to fall. And as it does, we pull flaps 10 degrees. So I just pressed a button. So you see the flaps are now down to 10. And now we're good to start descending. We're a little past our point of beam, but that's okay. So we'll just let it come down, going for about 80 knots or so, just kind of whatever the plane's comfortable with at this point. I've got the power a little low, so I'll just add a little bit more there, about 1,500. And I'll trim back so it doesn't just nose down completely. And a good point here, so usually about 45 degrees back to the runway is good to make the base turn, but here we'll go about, we're kind of right over this corner of this lake there. So make that left turn, usually about 1,200 is what I like, but we're a little lower than that, and that's okay. We just add a little bit of power, slower descent here if we have to. Yeah, this is a little wider than maybe sometimes, but I'm okay with it. Cool, and so I'll just keep this here, and let it descend a little bit. There we go, and so we can pull flaps now to 20 degrees, so I'll press that button there. Flaps now are down to 20. You can see those coming down. And it's almost time for us to make our turn to final. And so as we do that, so 70 knots here is great. We don't want to get much below 70 on base here. And so as we turn to final, I'm going to probably roll out somewhere between 800 and 900 feet is good for us. So we'll start to make that turn, make sure we don't overshoot. With parallel runways, it's really important not to overshoot. Watch that airspeed. So there's a house right about here that if we cross this house, I think it's right here, at 700 feet, that's pretty much perfect for us. We're a little higher than that, but that's okay. We're not much higher. And so great. So there's our VASI lights in the simulator that it gives us. Perfect. So now we can roll out. There's 65 knots. It's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the power just slightly, pitch back just a little bit, pull that final flap to 30 degrees. Make sure we don't balloon. And then once we really want to start sinking, so make sure our speed doesn't get too quick or too slow, we'll add a little bit of power back there, and we just glide this thing right back down. We've got red and white on the VASI, which is equivalent to 2 red and 2 white for PAPI light systems. So there we go, we lost that red. But it gets really sensitive close to the ground here. And I'm happy with this. Our approach speed is a little bit slow, but again, for a calm day, I'm fine with this. Now we start to round out. We can reduce the power as we enter ground effect and start to round out. And then as we really, right now, we can pull the power all the way to idle and just flare it. Just hold that nose off. Just hold it off as long as we can. And just let it nicely set itself down. And if we look, the nose wheel is still off the runway. Just let it set itself down nicely. Look at that. A little off center line, but for a simulator, I will take it. And then if we were going to do a touch and go, what we would do is we put the flaps all the way up. Make sure the trim is not, I can't even see it. Make sure the trim's not too far back, which is not cool. We can add the power then all the way back to full. Checking our engine indications. We'll check our airspeeds back alive once it is. There it goes, and then we'll rotate to 55 knots. There's 55. Rotate, and then we accelerate up to 74. And then now we lose runway, so we start to use our reference point down there, accelerating up to 74, and then we do it all again. So cool. So there's a left fire pattern for 30 left. Wasn't perfect, but for the sim, I'm pretty happy with it. So hope this helps.